In the precise instant a man crosses that threshold, he finds himself at the exact point where the social mask encounters inner darkness, and love can emerge only if he finds the courage to remain. Carl Jung. What a man experiences in the exact moment he enters a woman is far more intricate than most people dare ever conceive. For too long, intimacy has been simplified to something merely corporeal, a rapid exchange of pleasure and satisfaction. Yet, Jungian psychology reminds us that nothing in the human soul possesses such simplicity. In those silent instants lives a tempest of feelings that men rarely admit. Not to their companions, not to their friends, sometimes not even to themselves. Beneath his tranquil expression could hide truths capable of transforming your understanding of love, trust, and attraction. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your existence and you will call it destiny." Nowhere is this truer than in intimacy. For a man, penetrating a woman represents not merely passion, but a threshold where his persona collides with his shadow. The archetypes of the lover, the child, and the warrior awaken within him, stirring vulnerability, fear, and burning desire. This is why intimacy so frequently awakens contradictions. Sweetness and hesitation, ardor and withdrawal, closeness and muteness. But before we continue, like this video, share it with people who might appreciate it, and write in the comments from which city you follow our YouTube channel. In this video, we will unveil 5 hidden Jungian truths regarding what a man truly feels when he enters inside you. These are not superficial dating advice or strategies. They are profound psychological understandings that explain why some men distance themselves, why others cling, and how women can respond, not with confusion, but with awareness. By the end of this video, you will have a new lens through which to look. When you comprehend, you no longer need to chase or guess. You gain the freedom to meet love with lucidity, compassion, and strength. If these reflections resonate with you, remember to like this video and subscribe to my channel, Jungian Mindshift, so you never miss more Jungian insights and heart-to-heart conversations. Let us begin with the first hidden truth, one that will completely change how you see his silence, his touch, and his hesitation in the most intimate moments. First layer, power and vulnerability. The very first thing a man feels when he enters a woman is a surge of power mixed with a deep undercurrent of vulnerability. It is as if 2 opposing currents rush through him in the same instant. On one hand, he feels chosen, confirmed in his masculinity, proud that someone has opened her body and given him trust. This moment touches something ancestral within him, the archetypal male impulse to conquer, to demonstrate potency, to stand as the one who gives life. On the other hand, this very moment makes him fragile, exposed, and fearful that he might not measure up to what she truly desires. This paradox confuses many women. They see the confidence, the physical drive, the masculine force. But then suddenly they notice hesitation in his eyes, a certain silence afterward, or a need for confirmation that is rarely expressed in words. He might ask indirectly through contact, holding you tighter, or even withdrawing into himself. The hidden question he carries with him is, am I enough? Did I satisfy her? Will she continue to desire me tomorrow? These are not childish doubts. They are the secret shadows men often never confess. Carl Jung's psychology helps us understand why this happens. The persona, the mask of confidence he shows the world, collides with the shadow, the hidden fear of inadequacy and rejection. In that instant, his archetypes awaken. The lover archetype feels triumphant and alive, proud to be desired. The child archetype trembles, craving comfort and reassurance. The warrior archetype insists on control, on showing strength, even if inside he is uncertain. This inner conflict is what makes intimacy with men so layered and sometimes confusing. For some men, this fear of not being enough gets covered with bravado. They exaggerate their performance, act dominant, or even boast afterward. This is not pure arrogance. It is armor. They are trying to silence the small voice inside that whispers, "What if I disappointed her?" For other men, the experience opens the door to genuine vulnerability. They soften. They look into your eyes more deeply. They crave closeness beyond the physical act. This is the man who risks being seen completely. And precisely because of that, he can become a more connected lover. Women often wonder, why does he sometimes seem distant after intimacy? Or, why does he suddenly hold me tighter? The answer lies in this dance between power and vulnerability. If his shadow of fear overwhelms him, he might withdraw, needing space to rebuild the mask of confidence. If he feels safe in your presence, he might instead lean in, seeking the reassurance that allows him to integrate his vulnerability rather than hide it. Jung taught that what we resist persists. If a man resists his feelings of fragility, they often return as projection. He might accuse you of judging him or complain that you are difficult to please when in reality it is his inner critic that torments him. But if he accepts both pride and fear, both power and tenderness, he takes a step toward individuation, toward being whole and authentic in love. For women, understanding this first layer is essential. Many believe that men enter intimacy seeking only relief. But the truth is he is also seeking validation of his worth. Not through words of praise alone, but through the sensation that you accept both his strength and his fragility. If you reject his vulnerability, he might shut down. If you demand constant proof of his power, he might collapse under the weight of expectation. But if you see that his masculinity includes both strength and fear, pride and doubt, you create space for intimacy that is both passionate and emotionally safe. This is why the first layer of intimacy is so crucial. A man feels proud because he has been chosen, but also fragile because he fears not measuring up. Second layer, validation. If the first layer is power mixed with vulnerability, the second layer is validation. For many men, the act of entering a woman is unconsciously lived as proof of worth. It confirms that they are desirable, chosen, and adequate. This moment can seem like evidence that they belong, that they matter, that their masculinity has been affirmed in a way the world rarely offers. Yet here lies the paradox Jung would point out. If validation is tied only to the act itself, it never truly satisfies. In these moments, a man often looks not at his own performance but at his partner's responses. The rhythm of breath, the sound of surrender, the gaze in the eyes. These become silent markers of whether he has been enough. When her body relaxes, when her eyes soften, he feels confirmed. But when she appears distant, distracted, or uninvolved, he might sink within himself, doubting, fearing he has failed some invisible test. Carl Jung's psychology shows that much of male desire is not a conscious choice, but the pull of the unconscious. Shaped by archetypes, a man often seeks validation outside because inside he battles the shadow of inadequacy. The lover craves affirmation. The hero wants victory while the shadow whispers, "You are not enough." A partner's response then becomes more than pleasure. It becomes a mirror reflecting both his pride and his doubt. Here lies the debate. Some see male desire as purely biological, but Jung argued that biology cannot explain the deep hunger for validation. In moments of intimacy, a man's inner conflicts emerge. Is he a conqueror or a child desiring praise, confident or secretly seeking reassurance? If he seeks validation only here, he risks falling into a cycle, chasing partner after partner, not from pure desire, but from the need to keep proving himself. Each moment answers, "Am I worthy?" only briefly before the fear returns. As Jung warned, what remains unconscious will govern us as destiny. Until a man confronts his shadow of inadequacy, no number of encounters will silence it. For women, this can create confusion and even pain. You might wonder why he sometimes seems obsessed with your reactions, why he seeks signs that you are involved, or why he distances himself if you are silent. The truth is that in those moments he is not only seeking pleasure, he is seeking evidence that he is enough. Your breath, your gaze, your sounds. These become the proof he is unconsciously craving. But here lies the challenge. You are not responsible for healing the shadow inside him. You cannot carry the weight of his self-worth. What you can do is recognize the dynamic, respond authentically, and choose whether his search for validation is rooted in genuine connection or in infinite hunger. The Jungian insight here is liberating. Validation is natural, but when it becomes the only goal, it enslaves both partners. True intimacy is not about performing to obtain proof, but allowing vulnerability to be met with acceptance. When a man begins to integrate his shadow, to accept that he is both strong and uncertain, he no longer needs every moment of union to declare his worth. He can rest in connection rather than chase confirmation. The second layer, therefore, teaches us a profound truth. Intimacy becomes dangerous when it is reduced to proof of value. But when it becomes a meeting of two souls, where validation arises naturally from genuine presence, it can transform both partners. Have you ever noticed how much a man seems to seek your reactions during intimacy? And do you think he is truly seeking pleasure or proof that he is enough? Third layer, dissolving walls/biological bonding. From the earliest stories of human history, men have been described as both wanderers and returners. Ancient myths often portray the male as a hunter who roams the world yet returns repeatedly to the same hearth, the same woman, the same familiar embrace. In Greek epics, warriors fought for glory in distant lands, yet yearned for the arms of Penelope or Andromache. In tribal cultures, initiation rites emphasized separation from women, yet equally celebrated reunion, seeing it as the renewal of life. These patterns suggest that while men may appear restless, something deeper calls them back toward a particular bond. Modern science offers us a clearer picture of why. During physical intimacy, the male body releases oxytocin and dopamine, the same chemical compounds that bind mothers to infants and shape the memory of comfort. These neurochemical shifts blur the walls between desire and emotion. They create what feels like fusion, the sensation that for a moment his boundaries dissolve and he belongs completely to another person. Even if a man logically convinces himself that the encounter is casual, his nervous system remembers the body, the scent, the rhythms of the woman he has entered. This memory is not only in the mind but written in his biology. Carl Jung would take this further, moving beyond biology toward psychology and symbolism. For Jung, intimacy is a symbolic fusion of opposites. Masculine and feminine, conscious and unconscious, persona and shadow. He believed that union carries a mythic weight because it represents the psyche's longing to return to wholeness. The man in these moments might not realize it, but he is enacting an archetypal script. He is not only touching a woman, he is encountering his anima, the feminine part of his soul that seeks integration. This is why the bond can feel overwhelming, why he might feel both expansion and loss of control. Here lies one of the most debated points in Jungian thought. Some critics argue that intimacy is simply chemistry and instinct, a matter of hormones and evolution. Jung insisted that biology alone cannot explain the depth of attachment, nor the way a single experience can leave a man haunted for years. He pointed to the collective unconscious, where archetypes of union and longing live. In his view, the man's return to a woman is not only because of oxytocin, but because she has awakened something in his unconscious, a memory of his own incompleteness and the promise of wholeness through her. For many women, this helps explain why a man may keep returning even when logic says he should not. He might not be calculating. He might even not understand it himself. His body has remembered her. His unconscious has imprinted her as the bearer of his anima. This can create deep attachment, sometimes even obsession. What seems like a simple connection on the surface is in Jungian terms a powerful psychic bond pulling him toward the mirror of his own soul. But there are risks. If a man confuses this bond with possession, he might cling, demanding constant access to maintain the illusion of wholeness. If he denies it, pretending the attachment does not exist, he might scatter himself across many encounters, never understanding why the ghost of one woman lingers. Jung would warn that until the man confronts the symbolic meaning of this fusion, he will remain trapped, either obsessed with holding on or restless in searching for what he has already lost. For women, understanding this third layer offers clarity. If he keeps returning, it might not be strategy or manipulation, but the simple fact that his nervous system and unconscious have bound themselves to you. You are not responsible for his inner journey, but knowing this truth allows you to step back with wisdom. You can choose whether the bond becomes ground for growth or whether it entraps both of you in cycles of obsession. Fourth layer, fear versus love. A middle-aged man once shared in therapy, "I thought it was casual. I told myself I could leave without a trace. But the moment I was with her, something broke open inside me. Afterward, I kept thinking, what if she forgets me? What if I was just another passing figure in her life? I was afraid, and at the same time, I realized I cared for her more than I had ever intended. His confession reveals a reality many men never admit aloud. Intimacy awakens not only desire but also a struggle between fear and love. On the surface, men often insist they can separate closeness from attachment. They say they can keep it casual, treat intimacy as an experience without deeper consequences. Yet Carl Jung would caution us that the unconscious does not obey logic. Intimacy is never only physical. It is also a psychic portal. A man may enter believing he has control, but he quickly discovers that intimacy bypasses his defenses. What emerges is not simply pleasure, but love, unexpected and overwhelming. Fear often arises first. There is the fear of failure, the worry of not having satisfied her or proven himself. There is the fear of being forgettable, the tormenting thought that she might walk away untouched while he remains consumed. There is the fear of comparison, the suspicion that she silently measures him against other men and finds him lacking. Jung would describe these fears as the whispers of the shadow, the part of the psyche that carries self-doubt, inadequacy, and shame. Intimacy projects a merciless light into this chamber, forcing him to confront what he prefers to keep hidden. Yet, even as fear persists, love silently enters the scene. Jung spoke of the anima, the inner feminine present in every man, which comes alive when intimacy is shared. The woman before him ceases to be only a partner. She becomes the mirror of his soul. This is why men who swear they want nothing serious often find themselves unexpectedly attached. The anima does not respond to logic or agreements. It responds to resonance. And when it is moved, the bond feels undeniable. This creates a paradox. The rational mind insists on keeping intimacy light and safe, but the unconscious speaks another truth. Here is love. Here is bonding. Here is the reflection of your deepest longing. Intimacy dissolves walls he has built for years, exposing tenderness he might not even know exists. He might resist it, but he cannot fully escape it. For women, this helps explain behavior that seems contradictory. One day he withdraws, avoiding calls and pretending nothing has changed. The next day he returns, holding tighter than before. This is not hypocrisy. It is the tug-of-war between shadow and anima, between fear of being forgotten and the love that refuses to remain hidden. The cost of ignoring this paradox can be heavy. A man who denies the love that awakens within intimacy might harden himself, treating closeness like a test of pride rather than a space of connection. This often creates confusion and pain, leaving both partners wounded. But a man who admits his fear and still leans toward love begins the process Jung called individuation. He learns to integrate shadow with consciousness, strength with tenderness. In doing so, he becomes capable not only of desire but of devotion. Jung would remind us that until men face this paradox, they remain prisoners of it. Fear convinces them to hide. Love threatens to expose them. Both forces pull in opposite directions. Yet when they accept that fear and love always arrive together, intimacy transforms. It becomes not a test of masculinity, but a path toward wholeness. For women, understanding this can create compassion. When a man pulls away after intimacy, it might not signal emptiness. More often, it means too much was stirred inside him. Fear and love collided, leaving him disoriented. Recognizing this truth does not excuse neglect, but it does help you see the humanity beneath his contradictions. He is not only torn between leaving and staying. He is torn between fleeing from love and surrendering to it. Do you believe intimacy awakens love more often than men admit? And how might that change the way you understand their contradictions afterward? Fifth layer, identity and presence. Throughout history, the meaning of intimacy for men has shifted dramatically. In ancient societies, masculinity was often tied to conquest and lineage. A man's worth was measured by his ability to produce heirs or demonstrate dominance. Intimacy in this sense was framed as a duty, a transaction between power and survival. The emotional dimension was rarely mentioned and vulnerability was often buried beneath cultural expectations. In contrast, the modern man lives in a far more complex web of identity. Intimacy is no longer just about survival or status. It has become deeply linked to self-perception. How he is received by a woman can confirm or destabilize how he sees himself. In Jungian terms, intimacy touches the persona, the mask he presents to the world, and verifies whether it aligns with the deeper self. A man may enter believing he is confident, capable, strong, yet afterward find himself wondering, was I truly present? Did she see me as I wanted to be seen? This is where presence matters. Jung often emphasized the importance of awareness, of being fully conscious in the moment. When a man is truly present during intimacy, he experiences not only union with another person, but also a clearer reflection of himself. Yet presence is fragile. It can be nurtured or shattered by the smallest signals from a woman afterward. A touch of gratitude, a gentle embrace, or simply remaining close can affirm his identity, telling him, "You are not only wanted, you are accepted." On the other hand, indifference, distance, or coldness can wound him deeply, stirring the shadow of inadequacy and rejection. This duality is why intimacy is never neutral. It either heals or wounds. A man may leave the same encounter either more integrated or more fractured, depending on how he experiences his partner's presence afterward. Jung would describe this as the meeting of archetypes. When the woman responds with warmth, she embodies the nurturing side of the anima, helping him integrate vulnerability into his sense of self. When she responds with rejection, she awakens the shadow, leaving him trapped in doubt and shame. The conflict between past and present becomes clear here. In earlier times, a man might ignore these inner tremors, dismissing them as weakness. The culture reinforced stoicism, telling him that intimacy was about performance and duty, not feeling. But the modern man, shaped by shifting expectations, cannot easily separate identity from emotion. He might laugh it off, but inside he knows. The way she responded changes how he sees himself. This tension creates both risk and opportunity. If he builds his identity only on her reactions, he risks dependency, forever chasing reassurance. If he completely ignores her presence, he risks becoming detached, using intimacy as an empty act rather than a transformative one. Jung's teaching offers a middle path. Individuation means holding both truths, recognizing the impact of the partner's presence, while also grounding identity in one's own inner wholeness. For women, this layer reveals just how much power they hold. A small act of aftercare, a word of gratitude, or even silence carries meaning far beyond the moment. It can either solidify his confidence or fracture it. This does not mean a woman is responsible for his self-worth, but it does mean her presence matters. Intimacy is not finished when bodies separate. It lingers in the psyche, shaping how he views himself and the relationship. The fifth layer teaches us that intimacy is never casual at the level of the soul. It reshapes identity. It reshapes presence. And in this reshaping, a man either grows closer to his authentic self or retreats deeper into shadow. Jung would remind us that this is the ultimate task, to accept the mirror intimacy provides, to face both pride and doubt, and to let presence, not performance, define the meaning of love. We have traveled through 5 hidden layers of the male psyche. For a man, it is not just a physical act, but a mirror in which he confronts his shadow, his anima, and his deepest longings. Carl Jung reminded us that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it destiny. Intimacy is one of the clearest places where this truth comes alive. It brings to the surface both the strength and the fragility of a man, both his need for validation and his fear of rejection, both his capacity to love and his resistance to it. To understand these layers means to see beyond the mask, to recognize that behind every confident posture lies a soul wrestling with its own contradictions. For women, this knowledge can be liberating. It helps you see that when a man distances himself, it might not mean indifference, but overwhelm. When he clings, it might not mean weakness, but the awakening of an attachment he had not planned to feel. And when he seeks your presence after intimacy, it is often not performance he craves, but reassurance that he has been truly seen. For men, embracing these truths is the beginning of freedom. To acknowledge fear without shame, to accept that love sneaks in when least expected, and to allow intimacy to reshape identity. This is the path of individuation, the journey toward living whole and authentic. If you found value in this exploration, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to my channel, Jungian Mind Shift. Your support allows us to bring more Jungian insights and heart-to-heart conversations to life. And if you know someone who might be touched by these reflections, share this video with them. In the next episode, we will dive deeper into archetypes, exploring the timeless patterns that shape attraction, love, and the collective unconscious. Until then, remember this: intimacy is not only about what two bodies share. It is about how two souls awaken each other to truth.